All right, thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. All right, so yeah, as he said, I've been leading people on kind of unusual tours through underground Atlanta and the Railroad Gulch for almost 2 decades now. And in the process, doing a lot of research about the history of the railroad junction that the city grew around and up and over, and taking a lot of photography. And ultimately, I combined all of those things into this book, Atlanta Underground, History from Below. And I'll be reading a few passages from that. In the process, I've found that Atlanta has a pretty strange relationship with our past. We tend to embrace our heritage and tear it down at the same time. A lot of my research and experiences in the Gulch have led me to think about that relationship with the past. So this is a piece from the introduction to the book that's called Descending, and it's about finding the artifact downtown known as the 0 Mile Post. Our history is buried here, for the most part not literally underground, but unseen nonetheless. It is in the fragments of buildings embedded in the foundations of their own replacements, in reflections captured on the surface of standing water, in successive strata of urban infrastructure built upon one another, under structures, through shadows, behind fences, out of view, unrecognized, uncelebrated, but not forgotten. Here is the earliest history of Atlanta, how it came to be in this particular place, how it acquired its unique name, how its colliding street grids were derived. It holds a record of the things that have been most important to us: transportation, commerce, hospitality, optimism. This concrete warren is where the story of Atlanta begins. But the few remaining artifacts of that history, as significant as they are, can be difficult to find. The remnants of buildings encountered in unexpected corners raise more questions than answers. From the middle of Central Avenue Viaduct, we enter an anonymous beige-painted concrete parking garage through a blank steel door, then walk past a bank of rusted elevators to a stairwell. It descends one level, we pass through another heavy door, then the stairwell narrows and turns in an unusual radius. We are seeking a landmark which most have heard of, but few have ever made the effort to find. At the bottom of this stairwell, past the abandoned spiral parking ramp, through a metal gate underneath a bridge, is the actual birthplace of our city. This is the site of an unassuming monument known as the 0 Mile Post, a small stone pylon of worn and chipped granite. It was set in place in 1850 upon completion of the rail line from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Designating the southern terminus of the Western and Atlantic Railroad, it marked the point at which 3 railroads came together into a junction, the germ of a great metropolis in an otherwise unlikely location. It was a monument to the ignition of a city, as well as a marker of the actual center point from which the circular limits were drawn. Like the historic storefronts of Underground, the 0 Mile Post survived beneath the elevated streets, while most everything above was rebuilt many times over. Despite its significance, it remained locked away for decades, like a precious artifact in a vault, preserved only because no one quite knew what to do with it. But the wrecking ball of progress could not be held off forever, and the milepost was uprooted and relocated for its own protection, and replaced with a crisp new replica just before the building that had enclosed it was demolished. History is not preserved here or celebrated, but like a ghost, it lingers, and its presence cannot be denied. The name Atlanta is unique to us here. Although there was a Greek heroine named Atalanta, but through my research I did find that there was no direct connection between those names. But the story of Atalanta is nonetheless pretty amusing, and there are interesting parallels to our own story that are pretty striking. This comes from the last chapter of my book, which is called Resurgence. And in the last chapter, I try to reflect on what I've learned and draw some conclusions about how the place that we have built, what it says about who we are as a city. The Atalanta of Greek mythology was abandoned on a mountaintop by her own father, King Iasus, who had desired a son instead. As an infant, she was suckled by wild bears and raised in the woods by hunters. She grew into a cunning huntress and a brave warrior, fighting alongside the Argonauts as their equal. She refused to take a husband, pledging her virginity to the goddess Artemis. Those who attempted to ravish her were vanquished, among them 2 Cyclops. When Atalanta was reunited with her father, he persistently urged her to marry. At last, she acquiesced on the condition that she would marry any suitor who could best her in a foot race, but those who failed would give their life. Many men died this way, until Aphrodite intervened on behalf of the suitor Hippomenes, giving him 3 golden apples. During his race with Atalanta, he rolled the irresistible apples across her path, and she could not help but follow them. Hippomenes won the race, and they were married, but the brief marriage did not end well. They offended Zeus by making love inside his temple, and he turned them both into lions, never to be together again. So, although it is entirely coincidental, the tale of Atalanta can be an apt metaphor for the city of Atlanta. Born alone in the wilderness, she became fiercely independent, bold, and fearless. And she ultimately met her downfall by being distracted by shiny objects tossed in her path. Eh? In 1903, W.E.B. Du Bois argued that the rapid growth of Atlanta after the Civil War had promoted an overemphasis on wealth and materialism over the values of knowledge and culture, declaring that if Atlanta had not been named for Atalanta, she ought to have been. But the phoenix symbolizes that Atlanta is a city of transformation and rebirth. Exponential growth has been a defining characteristic since its inception, which suggests that it has always been largely made up of inhabitants who have immigrated here from elsewhere. It is a city of people who have come here to start a new life. By necessity or by choice, they have left everything behind, sacrificed the husks of their own past to make way for the possibilities of a bold future. Even Scarlett O'Hara, Margaret Mitchell's metaphor for the city's coming of age, is torn between where she came from and where she is going. Her name evokes both the red earth of Georgia and her Irish immigrant heritage. Her refrain of "tomorrow is another day" is not so much a mantra of optimism as it is a survival technique to forget. It is a means to repress the tragedies of yesterday, to live in denial of the challenges of today, and instead focus on the task of rebuilding tomorrow. This relentless commitment to looking forward rather than backward may be what defines Atlanta's relationship to the past. This is the heart of our city and the source of our prosperity, and the blueprint for our ever-changing downtown. Thank you. Yeah, so in the end, ultimately, I do remain hopeful, and especially am inspired by events like this, where we can all come together to celebrate our history and our identity. And if you're interested, you can find me later if you're interested in copies of the book. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Please give it up for Jeff Morrison. Jeff Morrison, man. Please check out his book, check out his tour, man. Support everything that he has going on.